Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get started. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome, everybody, to April 26th edition of your Board of Directors meeting. We're going to start with the approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstentions? Agenda passes. We're going to go to the approval of the minutes from the March 29th regular meeting. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstentions? Motion passes. Minutes are approved. Approval of the minutes from the April 4th special meeting. Do I have a second? Do I have, all in favor? So moved. All right. Any abstentions? No? All right. Well, those meeting minutes may be approved. Okay. President's remarks. First thing I want to mention before we start is I want to talk about our season kickoff on May 17th. I really think this is going to be a great event. It was so popular last year that it outgrew the White Horse Park. It's going to be over at the Ocean Pines Veterans Memorial on May 17th. Tons of vendors, lots of food and activities, everything about Ocean Pines, from all the committees to all of the clubs. Everybody's represented and more. Don't miss it. Just in case you were wondering, admission is free. Now, I want to change topics for a moment, and I want to talk about something very important that's going to affect everybody here. I'm going to issue a call to action on the wastewater management issue that's facing Ocean Pines. As your board president, I'm here to alert you to a serious financial matter that will impact every household in our community. Your board has been working very hard with Commissioners Bertino and Bunting on this urgent matter. Worcester County's mismanagement of its wastewater system has encountered significant financial issues that are now being passed on to us, Ocean Pines ratepayers. Due to years of underfunding, mismanagement, and a lack of transparency, the county is now proposing substantial increases to our quarterly water and sewer bills. These increases will hit families hard with no long-term plan in place to prevent further hikes. Ocean Pines is one of the largest communities in Worcester County, and we deserve answers and accountability. It's unacceptable for our residents to shoulder the burden of mistakes that they did not make. We urge you now to join us in a community-wide letter writing campaign to demand that the Worcester County Commissioners reevaluate their approach and take immediate steps towards a fair and sustainable resolution. Please send your concerns to commissioners@co.worcester.md.us. Make your voice heard. Tell them we're watching and we expect responsible financial stewardship. The budget meeting for Worcester County is happening Tuesday, May 6th at 6 p.m. in Snow Hill. Show up, get involved. Thank you, and helping us protect our community. Moving forward, this is one of the great things that we've instituted here in Ocean Pines. I have the honor of swearing in Officer Vicki Martin. Please come forward. Thank you, Chief. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, sir.
Welcome to Ocean Pines. Repeat after me. I, Vicki L. Martin, do swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States and that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to the state of Maryland and support the Constitution and laws thereof. And I will, to the best of my skill and judgment, diligently and faithfully without partiality or prejudice, execute the office of police officer according to the Constitution and laws of the state. Subscribed, and you don't have to repeat this part. Subscribed and sworn to and before the President of the Association this 26th day of April, 2025. Welcome, Officer Martin. Nice to meet you. Thank you. I'll sign this again. I'll give you back to the meeting. Thank you, Chief. Moving on, we're going to go forward with our GM report. John?
Thank you, Stuart. Good morning, Ocean Pines.
Morning.
Today I have Linda Martin here, our Senior Director of Administration, and Debbie Donahue, and we'll present the team report. So as you start off, just if you can go back to the first page, please, I'm sorry. So, obviously our cherry blossoms, we're very excited about that. We're probably in our 4th or 5th year. More important is the middle picture. You can see in the back there, the bags of leaves. You all know that we put together a program, grab it, bag it, and we'll grab it. It's been very successful, and I just want to thank all the people in Ocean Pines that do understand about cleaning the ditches and how important it is to the drainage. That, over a week and a half, is a testament to it. So together we're better, and I appreciate what everybody's doing. So does the team. Okay, turn the page. All right, so we just added something up there, watch party. If anybody was here last night, we had about 110, 115 people here. Credit to Touch Italy, Debbie Donahue and her team, and everybody that came for the watch party on the hockey game. It was very successful. I know everybody had a good time. We have a lot of pictures. We're going to put that out there. We're excited about this, and we hope to be doing more. Turn the page. Okay, so this was a watch party. I'm just going to ask Debbie to jump in. It was her event, and I think she did a great job.
Thank you. Yeah, we had a really, really great turnout for our first one. Weren't sure how the community would come out for it, but as you can see, there's a lot of hockey fans in Ocean Pines. We ended up doing really well. We were very excited. Touch of Italy did a great job because, as you know, the season didn't end until Thursday a week ago. We had to pull this together in a short period of time, and Touch of Italy did a great job. So did my team. They did a really good job helping pull this together. Thanks to the board for allowing us to do it and the GM for his idea.
Okay, you might see some board members up there. Turn the page. Okay, so golf. Let me jump in on that one. So just some highlights on what's going on. Outdoor paved area updated for expanded canopy and upgraded television. That is Touch of Italy. You can see it's expanded from last year. They're going to be putting some type of canopy over the other patio, all to enhance the customer experience here at the golf course. He is going to be putting in 2 TVs also, among other stuff. To the right, you can see our Public Works team jumping in. We had some problems with the netting there, and we did it in-house, and we saved some money. Okay, turn the page. Racket Sports Building. Well, we did start off, it was a renovation. It was mainly to address the restrooms, which we received a lot of feedback, and rightfully so, from the Racket Sports group. We did start out that way. Once we started the demolition or tearing apart walls and everything, it became a different project. We did come forward, the board did approve. It's basically a new building now. Once we found out how it was built, and it was built basically on a sidewalk, one of the reasons why water always went in there when it was rained. So credit to everybody. We moved forward. That's why there is an increase. It's basically a new building now. We couldn't reuse a lot of the windows and everything that we were going to do. So that's the estimated price, $250, $275. It's basically a new building, and it will be done by Memorial Day. Front page. Bocce ball courts. All right, Debbie's going to jump in on the bocce ball courts. I'm really excited about this. We've talked about it, but it is going to be on the Rec and Parks. I've asked Debbie to do it.
So this is something we're really excited about. It's brand new. As you can tell, they've done the demolition for the one court that was already at the Yacht Club. But now there's going to be 2 courts. We're going to put them side by side, kind of end to end. And we have a league right now that has about 88 people already signed up to play in the league, along with additional substitutes that will be there to play if one of the players can't make it. They are estimated to be done way before, hopefully before Memorial Day. I'm hoping that's the plan. And we'll be able to start play in June. But it's a new, exciting program that we're offering, and we're going to also try to do a fall one.
Thank you, Debbie. So over 100 members, to put that in perspective, I think Platform has somewhere around, and it is growing Platform, around 50 or 60. Bocce is 100, right? I was comparing it to Platform. All right, turn the page. Jet skis, and they're in. 6 floating slips installed last week at Swim and Racket. Total cost approximately $20,000. There is a list. Ruth Ann has it. There might be 1 or 2 slips still open. So if you do want them, please get your name in there. And if we do have a list, we'll see if we can possibly increase it next year. But I'm excited about that. Those are slips that we were not able to utilize for boats. We will, again, enhancing the customer experience at Ocean Pines. Front page. Kayak racks. I'm going to let Linda jump in. She did a lot of work on this stuff.
Okay, we had a few people that were waiting for kayak racks. So we went ahead, Public Works ordered a few more, 6 additional spaces at each location. That's both at Pintail Park and Swim and Racket Club. Total cost for the racks and concrete are $3,627. I know there's a few that are already reserved, but if you want to, you can call the Recreation Department and you can be see if there's any availability still open.
Turn the page.
Maintenance, there's just a few maintenance items that have been done this month. Pools, getting ready for season. Chemicals have been ordered. Beach Club, Public Works is in process of replacing the worn boards. A contractor will be painting the outside deck once the boards are replaced. Concrete work at Mumford's Pool and the walkway around Swim and Racket. That's where we put the kayak racks as well. So I don't have a picture, that was on the previous slide. Parking lot, we're going to be doing striping of the Yacht Club, Swim and Racket Administration Building. This is much needed. It's a safety issue. So we'll be restriping those 3 parking lots. Landscaping. Landscaping crew is doing their annual mulching, including the playgrounds. I know I saw them out on the medians starting last week. Spring flowers and cherry trees are in full bloom. Additional palm trees have been installed or will be installed. There's one there in that picture at the Yacht Club. And the return of the sunflower garden at the North Gate is going to be new and enhanced.
Page, Debbie.
Oh, gym floor. So Public Works started ripping out the gym floor April 21st. So it is now being prepared for the new installation. We talked to Dynamic Sports. We are hoping to be started by May the 12th. And we just have a few more things to do in the gym, and then they'll be able to come in and get started with the installation. The price for the new construction of the floor is $62,300. And we're real excited about getting that floor in and not having any more of these types of issues.
Okay, roads. I know if you traveled either Cathal Road or Manklin, you saw that they county started doing the paving of that. They will continue this upcoming week. We also, Public Works had the contractor out, start the milling and the paving of Canal Road, Commodore Court, Dingy Court, Fairhaven Court, Juneway Lane, Portside Court, Riverside Drive, and Weeping Willow Court. That was approved by the board in September, and the total cost is $170,173. Soft Shoreline Project. This came through info, and we also had a committee reach out to us about this. What's going on with the Soft Shoreline Project? What has been done so far? We received $150,000 in grants. The drawing, we did receive more drawings than just the one on the picture there, but they were received in November. What we did also receive was a cost estimate of the project. Cost estimates could be around $500,000. That's the breakout there of the wetlands, fishing area, and landscaping. Status right now, all grants are on hold. Federal grants are on hold. But the landscaping will include, I know this has come up too, it will include a turtle sanctuary or turtle layout. I know people were questioning about that, will something be put in ponds for the turtles? Yes, we will have something in the pond for the turtles. Mailboxes, phase one of the mailbox repair replacement was completed. Public Works just put in an order for wood duck and cannon drives. Wood duck is over here on the left-hand side. They're rusted. All the pedestals are rusted, so they are being held on by a thread. So they will all be replaced, the pedestals and the mailboxes. Cannon Drive, if you look at the right-hand side, Cannon Drive, there's missing fronts to the mailboxes. They also have a one that is swinging in the wind. So that will be replaced as soon as they come in. So we'll be working with the Public Works will be working with the postmaster to get that all resolved.
Thank you, Linda. So we just go back on the mailbox. I just want a couple points on that because it is important from a financial standpoint. So the numbers are big. You can see what Linda's talking about. When we started getting these numbers, we don't have a reserve for mailboxes. We were tasked with fixing them, and rightfully so. And apparently we took them over from the post office and they were in dire needs. When I start to get numbers like that, it does affect the financials. When I talk to you about a forecast later or where our numbers are today, I'm going to have a timing with this depending when we get in there. But this is something to look at down the road as possibly a separate reserve for it. The numbers are big. Right now, we cover it through operations.
Okay, metrics for the month. CPI violations, 435 violations initiated in March, 316 closed out, 527 still open. That does include the leaf violations that we've been issuing. 82 of the 527 violations still open are in legal. So we do have 290 still open in maintenance, trash, and debris. And like I said, that does include the leaf violations. Work orders for the month, 118 new work orders, 120 still open. We do have a 61 in drainage. Drainage work orders are starting to pop up at springtime, so people are coming back in town. So we are getting a lot of drainage work orders. So the majority are still open in drainage is 65, still a low number. But only 10 are over 30 days, 1 over 60 days, and that is being held, being taken care of by a contractor.
Excuse me, Lynn, are those for collapsed pipes or debris clogging them?
It's usually the pipes underneath the driveway. We do realize homeowners cannot get to them, so we usually get a contractor to blow out the pipe,
Thank you.
or we do it.
So just some on there. And Linda, obviously, we've been focused on the ditches, and there's been a lot about that. And again, I want to thank everybody for what they're doing on that. So if we look at the amount of violations specifically for the ditches, the homeowners at this point have probably completed over 80% of them have complied, and that's fantastic. There are a few that we had to go to contractor with, that the contractors are cleaning it up. A lot of times the homeowner has paid the contractor directly, but there are some, and I believe Linda and her team are going forward to the board today to go forward. But the main thing is everybody's complying, and I think it's really great. Together we're better.
Okay, and customer service, 80 phone calls and emails. We're getting a lot of many calls this time of year, people coming back in town. But if you have any questions or concerns, email info@oceanpines.org.
Financials, give me a second to catch up. Okay, so on the financials, before I start, well, I'm going to start. All right, so let's start with the month March. No, it's fine. All right, so in March, and we know the schedule, we compare to prior year now, and we compare the budget. So if you go all the way out, and I have to report, or we have to report versus budget and favorability or unfavorability. So we always like now to go to that bottom right-hand corner. I think by now we all know. So for the month, we're favorable to budget, 109,000. And there's a lot that goes into that. There's the numbers by amenity or departments. Golf, again, is driving it, 13. Aquatics is really coming on strong. Credit to the lady and everybody down there. I see that doing more and more improvements there and generating favorability here. I know the police kind of balanced out. The chief is almost fully up to staff, so that we've seen that coming, and we've been budgeting and trying to keep within the budget on that. Public Works, there is favorability there. That's what I was talking about before. We have a list of projects. I'm going to call it timing, but between the mailboxes, some drainage work, pipes different from under the driveway, specifically pipes that go out through the bulkhead for drainage from the road. So those are big numbers. It's just a matter of timing, so it will eat into that. Okay, so 109 to the good. I think there was something else there that I wanted to recognize as far as an amenity, but all good. Turn the page. Well, I mentioned aquatics. Turn the page. Again, golf seems to be, or it continues to be, the economic engine driving the results here. What I want to add to that is who's driving that? Well, it's our senior department heads. They've been driving it all along and doing a great job along with everybody else. All right, so here we are year to date. We go down to that right corner. It's 936. Steve and I have been estimating somewhere around 950. I do want to update that today. I have some people on the outside asking me. I will give it a forecast. I try to explain to you where we're at with it because, obviously April is almost finished. And then, of course, the April results into it's audited in July. So 936, again, you look up at golf, aquatics really coming on strong, the marina, beach parking, all doing well. I think maybe one item isn't. But anyway, 936 to the favorable. This would be a good time. So that's the end of March. So what we're looking at next month when we come in and we give you unaudited April financial statements, we're forecasting, we believe that bottom right number could probably touch $1 million favorability. Again, it's all about the timing, some of the timing that I talked about, and when we get it in and not, and obviously the results from the amenities in April. We are keeping track on golf. Obviously, food and beverage is in the startup phase, so I am working with Touch Italy to try to see what those numbers are. So I have a couple of them. So give or take that $1 million, whether it's 50 less or 50 more, but that's the ballpark for us to look at, and that's what I'm doing along with the time. Okay, turn the page. Sure.
When you all hire contractors, is that going under, like for, cleaning up yours or doing whatever it is that you're doing, with the pipes and stuff? Does that go under Public Works? So that's accounted for?
So for the specific one that you mentioned, it does. It goes in Public Works. We have a drainage line. We have a contractor line. We use different outside contractors, maybe for painting or whatever. If we're working on the pipes and everything or the ditches, we've hired an outside firm to clean all the ditch, but most of the ditches, the key ones, that will go in there under drainage. Yeah. Now we have other contractors, whether it's IT or whatever, that would go to the other departments. Yep. And we move more and more towards outsourcing that kind of work, and we're getting better results. All right, so the reserves, we have our reserves. We know where our reserves are. Anytime we make a transfer between a reserve, the GM comes forward to this board or any other board and asks for approval along with the beach club. We have it all analyzed. We have it all reconciled. I've given those reconciliations to the board. We know where our transfers are. So here we are. This is, again, at the end of March. I have given estimates over time where we would be with our balance at the end of April. So that number, the 4.9, we're probably going to be in that ballpark, hopefully right around that. And then we do have some work more coming on the bulkheads. Linda explained the roads and drainage. So we'll be on top of that, and we'll have that for the April closing. Page. Okay.
Thank you, John.
Yeah.
We're going to move forward with our treasurer's report. Monica?
Thank you, Stu. As of March 31st, the association had approximately 14.3 million in cash. Cash decreased 600,000 from the same time period from last year. Cash increased 900,000 from February of 2025. We have 8.8 million invested in CDARS. We recognize 46,000 in interest income for the month. The remaining 5.5 is in insured cash sweep accounts, treasury bills, money markets, and other operating accounts diversified between two banks, local banks. Thank you.
Thank you, Monica. Okay, we're moving on to public comments. Any members here want to have a comment, you're limited to 5 minutes. Please state your name and address when giving a public comment. So the floor is open. Please step up to the podium. Is there a microphone there?
Here.
Yeah.
Thank you. Cheryl Jacobs, 1223 Carrollton Lane. And I just want to tag on to what our president said earlier, and that is, don't forget, May 17th, it's our season kickoff, and it's free for everybody. So please show up. The other thing, you'll see there's an item on the agenda today, and that is for the upcoming board election. And the one thing that I want to stress to all of you, and I'm sure this is not going to be the last time you hear it, and that is how important it is that we have your correct addresses. There's a lot of activity in Ocean Pines because this is where everybody wants to be. And so there are people who are new to Ocean Pines. There are people who have been here but decided they found something else in Ocean Pines that they liked even better and they move. It's so important that administration has your correct address and your emails. That's how we get the ballots out to you. So please make every effort to make sure that that information is correct. And then I just want to take this opportunity to personally congratulate Ruth Ann Meyer on her recent promotion. So well deserved. She's the keeper of the records for years and years, and we love Ruth Ann. So congratulations to Ruth Ann. Thank you.
Thank you, Cheryl. Is there anybody else that has a public comment? Monica?
Monica Rakowski, 34 Cannon Drive. Also about the wastewater management issue and the meeting in Snow Hill. We are renting 2 buses, John, that night? Yes, so we will have transportation to Snow Hill and back on the night of that meeting. It is so important that we get your support. Spread the word. Thank you. If you bring them, Steve.
Steve has volunteered to bring snacks on the bus to Snow Hill. Any more public comments? Okay, I'm going to close the floor to public comments, and we're going to move forward to capital requests, which there are none. And now we're going to move towards CPI violations. Linda?
Okay, all these violations have received first and second notice, no comments or connections with CPI. So therefore, we're requesting them to be forwarded to the legal to rectify and also to suspend voting and amenity rights. 97 Pinehurst Drive, 60 Abbyshire Road, 26 Moby Dick Drive has been resolved, so that can be removed. 100 Tail of the Fox Drive, 2 Quarterstaff Place, 78 Robin Hood Trail, 5 Avon Court, 819 Ocean Parkway, and 119 Watertown Road.
Make a motion on this first? Okay, do I have a motion to suspend the amenity rights and send to legal those CPI violations Linda just read? Have a second?
Second.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you, Bruce. Suspend amenity and voting rights for the CPI violations that Linda read. Do I have a second? Seconded. Discussion? Seeing no discussion, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed or abstentions? Those violations are moved to legal. Linda?
Okay, the following violations, we're asking for a vote for approval to have the contractor resolve. 31 Seabreeze Road, 73 Burr Hill Road, 97 Pinehurst Road, 48 Beacon Hill Road, 7 Dingy Court, 29 Beacon Hill Road, 214 Windjammer Road, 31 Tail of the Fox Drive, 18 Southwind Court, 20 Seagrave Lane, 696 Ocean Parkway, 40 Martinique Circle, 11 Brandywine Drive, 84 Cresthaven Drive, 7 Marview Drive, 115 Nottingham Lane, 7 Nottingham Lane, 1054 Ocean Parkway, 59 Castle Drive, 13 Hickory Way, 11 Hickory Way, 7 High Sheriff Trail, 28 High Sheriff Trail, 30 High Sheriff Trail, 26 Gloucester Road, 37 Gloucester Road, 13 Gloucester Road, 795 Ocean Parkway, 131 Watertown Road, 6 Watertown Road, and 4 Watertown Road.
Do I have a motion to send a contractor to resolve the CPI issues that Linda read? Do I have a second? Discussion? Go ahead, John.
Linda, when we have a contractor, that, whatever that fee is, gets passed back to the homeowner.
Yes,
Right.
we pay the fee. It goes part of CPI contract services. And then we bill the homeowner. If they do not pay within 30 days, it gets part of their assessment.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Any more discussion? Seeing no discussion, everybody in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstentions? Those violations are approved to have a contractor resolved. Moving forward towards unfinished business, we have none. New business, election committee presentation for the board. Steve Ransdale. Keep that microphone on that desk over there. All right, well. Yeah.
Is it on?
Yeah.
Good morning, Steve.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, good. Good morning, directors, Ocean Pine residents. I bring you the report of the Elections Committee. First off, as is always first, I want to thank the members of the committee, Cheryl Jacobs, Marlene Ott, Tom McElroy, Pat Leonard, and of course myself. We have been diligently meeting, facilitating the process of requesting bids and putting together another hopefully seamless election without controversy. That is always our hope. In that regard, we did get the board approval to issue an RFI that was sent to largely the same vendors that we had bid the last time we put out an RFP. All responded with responses, with one additional who apparently got wind of our RFP and submitted an unsolicited response, which we did consider. That one response was late. Largely because they just learned that we had issued an RFP, and they had only learned of it a couple days before. I made the command decision to include them in a spirit of fairness. We don't want to miss anyone. After meeting and discussion, I can tell you the committee is divided very clearly. We do, of course, we have 5 members, all 5 voted, so we do have a recommendation to the board. And that recommendation is that we proceed with Ace Printing and Mailing out of Berlin as our election vendor for this year. Now, with that being said, I want to provide some background as well. The committee initially met and reviewed all of the available responses and kind of whittled it down to 2, and hence the divide on the committee. The 2 were Ace Printing and MK Elections, our recommended vendor based on last year's report of the Elections Committee. And the voting broke down along those lines. In favor of Ace is their local business. We always want to support local where we can, as well as past experience with Ocean Pines elections, albeit those were paper elections and not a hybrid approach. MK Elections, the reasons for recommending them last year stood. and we know what we got. It worked, and hence some favorites with that. But the committee voted 3-2 in favor of ACE Printing, and that's our report. That's our recommendation.
I'm going to suspend Robert's rules for discussion amongst the board. Do we have any questions for Steve? Rick?
Steve, thank you. Steve, thank you once again for your committee to working very hard at putting this together. I know it's a pretty good task to receive these RFPs and kind of see where they weigh out in comparison to each other. I have two questions that I wanted to ask. If you're prepared to answer, I'd appreciate that. I know in the RFP that there was ACE said that they had a timeline that would need to be allowed to create testing and for a new custom online voting portal for Ocean Pines. Was this developed? And if it's so, has it been tested currently to be able to facilitate our election as we are required and requested?
Because my committee, there was strong support for ACE, and I was on the opposite side of the discussion. I reached out to Tom Gulius at ACE to ask a few questions, largely to see if I could come around to supporting the rest of the committee. I asked him about that very thing, and he was, I don't want to say dismissive, but he assured me that whatever was needed to be done would be done in compliance with our timeline and would be ready to go in plenty of time.
So we don't have anything currently. I mean, he hasn't shared where he has developed and shown testing of being able to do what we're required as far as online voting.
No, in fact, this was a casual conversation, and I wasn't really trying to dig one way or another. I just wanted to put my own mind at ease. I did ask Tom if he could provide any references for other HOAs. His RFP response said he has done elections for HOAs and others. But when I asked, his response was, well, because of confidentiality, I can't share that. You wouldn't want me sharing details of your election with someone else.
And I appreciate that response. That was going to be my second question as far as for references, because I know in any businesses, references on performance is critical and important. And not being able to share references is a concern for me on that aspect of being able to have performance or have shown past performance. I will be brutally honest that that's a red flag for me. When you don't show, I understand confidentiality. However, as far as being able to provide references of past performance, I think it's very important for us to make this type of a decision on that. So for the record, he has not provided any type of references on any past performance to what we're asking for him to do as far as for our election.
I only asked the question about particularly the hybrid piece of it because ACE Printing, of course, has a long history of working with Ocean Pines on our elections when they were paper-based.
Okay.
As another question that I asked was a curiosity question, perhaps, but if they're bidding on an elections contract, but it's ACE Printing and Distribution, and a quick look on their website showed no mention of election services. I asked him why that was, if this is a line of business for them that they're getting into. And honestly, his answer was, well, gee, I don't know.
Thank you. That's all I have for right now.
Yes, Jeff?
Okay, Jeff, I can hear you.
You can hear me now? Thank you. Steve, I have a couple questions and
Please.
one comment. Thank you for your committee's hard work first. And now that we know you're recommending ACE Printing and Mailing, my first question is, they didn't provide references, but has ACE conducted used their services for internet voting for anybody else?
That question was not asked directly, but they did put in their RFP that they've run elections for other HOAs. I didn't follow up on whether they were hybrid. I rather took it as an unwillingness to supply any references.
Okay,
But in fairness, I did not ask that question directly.
fair enough. As far as counting ballots, how will ACE count physical ballots? Do they plan on using the reader that Ocean Pines is currently in possession of, or do they have their own?
Again, I don't know. The answer is I don't know, but just as MK sublets out or has a sub do the printing for them, I would suspect that ACE might very well sub out that work as well. Although they have said they can comply with the requirements for an observable count, even doing it on site here, which I don't know what to make of that, but
Okay.
either they have the equipment or they'd be
Okay,
planning.
fair enough.
I could reach back if necessary.
And I just have a general comment. In your RFQ, it's stated that these bids were to remain confidential. Is that true?
They were proprietary information.
I am so disappointed that I read about these RFQ responses in the Progress last edition.
As was I.
I'm sure. I mean,
I can tell you, Mr. Hefner, that in casual conversations with members of the Elections Committee, that issue alone has created a great deal of mistrust among the members. We have no inkling, and I certainly would never make an accusation without any kind of proof, whether that information came from the committee, which was a small handful of people who had access to it. To the best of my knowledge, the only other people aware of those bids would be our liaison. We do involve John, and I presume, although he can speak to this, whether those were shared with the board. Beyond that,
I hear your comments. And listen, I don't really think it's important that we know who did it. It just shouldn't be done. I'm sure you've heard, especially in your line of work, I'm sure you heard of the term loose lips sink ships. It's an American English idiom meaning careless or unregarded talk can have serious consequences, even in something as small as a homeowner's voting for the board of directors.
Also, because of some meeting logistics difficulties, we weren't able to meet on Teams, but we had to come to a final resolution on our recommendation. So we did actually take the vote by phone, and I can provide how everyone voted. But in doing that, the word that we had done that, which was our duty to do in a closed session, protecting the proprietary information, even though it had already been leaked, that information came out in one of the forums. So at this point, honestly, I want to trust everyone. I have no reason not to trust any individual on the committee, but it does make you leery of speaking honestly and forthrightly when whatever you say is being printed.
Thank you, Jeff. John.
Steve, as we know that there's about $12,000 difference between MK and ACE Printing. My question is, MK knows exactly, because they had a lot of extra mailings to do last year. So whatever their bid started at, it increased by several $1,000s. When I looked at the ACE, it's lacking the cost for the referendum, which we will more than likely be issuing. So it does not include a referendum. It does not include extra mailings, if I read that right. Any idea on kind of what that delta is going to be? Again, we're not necessarily looking to the, the low cost provider. If we were looking for the low cost provider, those two folks would have been eliminated right out of the gate. So just trying to get a gauge on what we think that spread could be.
I did a cost comparison in which I tried to carefully account for the initial postage and mailing, because the RFQ, we didn't give an estimate on how many replacement ballots might be issued or things like that. But some of them, MK's bid, for example, did include the cost of the printing and the mailing of the ballots. ACE did not. It was listed as postage additional. When I factored those two, I believe it brought them about $6,000 closer. MK was still a higher bidder. But let me say a word about cost. I know the election is a budgeted item. All of the bids were within the budget, as I've been told. And I don't view our job as getting the cheapest vendor. I view our job as making sure we can ensure a fair and honest election that enfranchises as many Ocean Pines voters as want to vote, to give them the opportunity to do that. And MK's bid was within a couple of percentage points of last year's, which would be accounted for in inflation. And they also gave us a full 3-year estimate with escalating costs to allow for that inflation. The ACE bid just gave us a cost on an election and said referendums would be priced separately, which was not in compliance with the request. But
And I'll just add one, just for our homeowners. Last year, and the reason I make the comment, the online voting last year was right at 28%. So it's certainly not insignificant. And we feel like having a solid online opportunity for our community is important.
I will just add, trying to be transparent and full disclosure, when we first met, there is still some strong sentiment in the community for doing away with the hybrid and going back to all paper. And that was represented on our committee as well. So it's not without supporters out there. But several years back, the board went through lengthy discussions and decided that hybrid was the way to go. So that is what we put forward. And frankly, the trend of voters voting online is increasing. I anticipate that being a little higher again this year because of the ease of voting for those comfortable doing it that way is quite notable.
Thank you, Steve. Any other questions? Elaine?
I have a couple, a
I
little
thought
bit
you
of,
might.
can you hear it?
Yeah.
And can you hear me now?
Ma'am.
Just a little bit of follow-up on some of the things that you have already been asked, but I guess I want to know some additional info. I know that you all have worked very hard, on it. I guess, I don't want to say disappointed, but I'm a little concerned that we're being asked to make a decision today when some of the questions probably should have been asked that were not, so that we could have a valued response to the RFP that you all are recommending in the RFQ. Because you said you really don't know whether they did an online or not. You didn't really ask, or nail that down. And quite frankly, that's something that we expect from the committee to be able to follow through and be able to give us those kinds of answers. So it makes me a little unsettled today to make a decision, because we don't know really, is the answer yes or no, or maybe so. So that's a bit concerning. also with the scan count, I think it was mentioned, how is that being done? And again, we don't have that information. We certainly don't want to go back, as someone who's mentioned, to the dark ages where we're hand counting ballots. It's just not something that we should be doing. Is it being done by a scanner? I don't know if you answered that question or not, or
I
if you.
can, if
Okay,
you'd
that,
like.
I would, yes.
The response did speak to a little bit to the methodology that they would be scanned and
They would
use an
be.
OCR reader.
Okay,
What was not asked for clarity was whether that's done at ACE, by ACE, or if it's done by a subcontractor, and how they do that. Do they have the equipment to do that, or would they plan to acquire that equipment upon getting this contract? So
okay.
that's.
And again, it should have been I think a relevant question, I wish we had had the answer to today, it- there, I understand there can be slip ups with any company. I mean, did we talk to, or did you all talk to MK, about the printing portion? Because again, both of these companies that are really were looked at are having to outsource parts of it, which is not unusual. And it is that last year there was a 2-week delay because of a mix up with their printer. Did you talk to them about that to get insurance that, our timelines will be adhered
We
to?
did ask that question of MK.
Okay.
Actually, we asked it last year as part of our wrap up in the annual report that we gave.
Okay,
And like any business, there can be hiccups and they assured us it wouldn't happen again. But I don't know that was a factor of subcontracting the work, but it may have been.
as I believe, or at least I think what we were told is the printing company didn't realize the
But to be
deadline.
clear, even that minor delay in voting did not cause anyone not to have an opportunity to vote.
I think we can always, if there's a glitch, we can, get it resolved. So that I'm not concerned about, but I just want to make sure that we're covering all the bases. And I just get a little uneasy that maybe whether some have or have not. The other thing is, I want to be clear on when the release of the voting box is going to be sent off if we determine that it's going to somebody else, to MK instead, that is that box going to be available, it has to be sent overnight. Is that going to be how it's
We
going to be done?
submitted through our liaison some recommended changes to MO6. One notably was to publicly announce that the box at the admin building is a convenience to our voters. It's not an inherent part of our process. It's a hybrid election by mail or by online. So we do the convenience for everyone of allowing drop off. The proposed changes to MO6 would state that we're going to close that collection box 1 week ahead of time to allow time to ensure that all the ballots in there get counted.
All right, I'm a little concerned about that, quite honestly, but
Okay.
I think that, it's a service. Yes, it's a convenience, but it's a convenience that our members use. And to cut that back, I'm just have to think in my mind, is that going to be a real problem for some or
And as the
not?
elections chairman, in response, all due
Yeah.
respect, my job is to make sure every vote that does get cast gets counted.
Okay, because
And-
that
and,
would be my
uh,
concern.
Certainly with ACE, that would be instantaneous. They've offered to pick it up for
Right.
us. So,
Okay.
but there would be a shipping to send it to MK.
Okay. And then can you clear, because I wasn't quite clear on the referendum and the costs on that, and who had provided that in their cost? Did just one and not the other, or was that something later added in and that's what kind of closed the
No,
gap?
that was part of the initial bid request that was
Okay.
sent out. MK did address that and gave us a cost for a separate referendum as well. ACE said it would be priced at the time or something. Hence,
Gotcha.
I
So
view
that
that
was
as
not,
compliant with the request.
okay, so that's why the amount changed a little bit between the two that you mentioned. Okay. All right. I'm done.
You sure? I can do this all day.
Thank you, Elaine.
I want everybody to be informed.
Hold on for 1 second. Steve?
Thanks, Stuart. I have a couple of questions, but before I do that, full disclosure, when I ran 3 years ago, I hired Ace to do my signs and some other work for me for my campaign. And if I do run again this year, I, in all probability, would rehire them. I had no problem with the work services they provided to me.
They're a fine
But
company.
this is a resolution sort of granting authority to the committee and council to negotiate a contract. And so at this
I'm sorry,
point,
what resolution are you referring to?
excuse me,
What resolution are you referring to?
the motion that will come up when you're all
Oh.
done.
Okay, all right.
I don't feel as if I have a conflict at this time, but I want to touch on a couple of matters. Picking up a little bit on what Elaine said, it does seem to me that there are a number of questions that need further exploration that have been raised by the board, or where deference to you and the committee, there appears to be some lack of clarity, might be the best way to put it. The issue of the referendum, for argument's sake, I had always just assumed that when the mailing goes out, the material for the election and the material for the referendum will be in the same packet.
They will if the referendum occurs, but
Right,
the
I
request
grant
for
that point.
proposals actually spoke to if we need a standalone referendum as well.
Understood. Okay. So the likelihood, and I believe we're all in agreement, is the referendum that would be, if we go forward with that, would be contemporaneous with the election of the new board. So that issue may not be as much of a problem as others. I am, as a personal matter, deeply troubled, I guess is the best way to put it, about cutting off the drop box a week before the close of the election. If the goal is to get as great a participation of our residents as possible, my best guess is that the drop box serves a vital function particularly for a lot of people who, many of us do, wait to the last minute to vote. Now, I'll grant the point that if we are doing online voting and that continues to increase in popularity and use, the demand for the drop box might well drop. But I don't think we're at that point now. We've only been doing online voting, I think, for 2 or 3 years. And while the numbers have gone up, it's still something that not everybody is comfortable with. So that's an issue for me. The cost differential between the two final contractors or vendors also raises some concern. And I am hopeful that the committee and council would look to the idea of trying to enter into a 1-year contract as opposed to a 3-year contract, regardless of who the vendor is. There was certainly a lot of commentary provided even before the RFP went out about the fine work that MK did in the last election, which I agree with. The last election was a lot easier to get through than the prior 2 or 3 elections, as I recall, and particularly better than the one immediately before last year's election. But I think we would be wiser to stick to a 1-year deal and go through the RFP process at least one more time. And my recollection, correct me if I'm wrong, but my recollection was last year there was a discussion about the observable count. And the feeling was that very few people were showing up for the observable count, and maybe we could do away with it. And when I thought it was MK, but maybe I'm wrong, but when MK when that was, they said, basically, we're going to charge you the same whether we have the observable count or not. And well, I understand when they're doing it, it seemed to me they could have provided some greater level of flexibility. So what I really would suggest is we probably would be wiser to get the answers to the questions that have been asked and the other issues that you raised, primarily from ACE, but and as well as from MK if necessary. And maybe we should have a special meeting open to finalize the action on the motion that'll come up next. But it just seems to me there's a lot of ifs out there that we don't have answers for.
Thank you, Steve. Rick? Oh, I'm sorry.
I just have one more question, Steve. And also, I just want to say I agree with my colleagues regarding the Dropbox. I do think it's very important that we give them up to the last day of the voting before those ballots are sent off. I think that's important because there are folks that do last minute, and we have to recognize and appreciate their voice for that.
And we certainly made that happen last year, but
Sure.
it was a matter of,
Yeah.
Because of the way the resolution's written, that the vote ends and we have
Sure.
to have results 2 days later.
Sure.
It's a stretch to make the effort to make sure you catch the UPS guy in time.
Right. So I just hope we make that effort, the best effort. And I know you
If
and your
it's a
committee will.
requirement, we will always make the effort.
Absolutely. From what you know now, then the committee knows now, MK, ACE, who of course are the two finalists that we see here. If we were to do today and decide who's better right now to take care of our elections right now, where would you lean at? What? Hold on.
Listen,
Hold on.
it's a valid question. This is not a discussion with our public. This is a discussion amongst the board members and the chair of the election committee.
Point of order.
Yeah, go ahead.
You suspended Robert's Rules of Order.
Yeah, I kind of did. didn't I?
And in that light, as a member of the committee,
As an
think-
attorney, that's a really valid point.
thank you. And even if I wasn't an attorney, I think people would recognize it. But as a
Since
member of
rules
the
were
committee-
suspended, I will defer. Cheryl,
Thank you.
you object to this? Come up to the podium so we can get this on record.
I do object to that because the committee has made their recommendation. If you want additional information, it's going to be up to the committee to get it. But to put the chairman on the spot now, to ask him if he wants to change his vote, that's totally inappropriate. MO6 says the elections committee is supposed to be making this recommendation. They've made it. They did their due diligence, and I speak for everybody on the committee. It is completely inappropriate for you to put him on the spot now and try to get him to change his.
I wasn't
position.
asking him to change his vote. I asked who was ready. I didn't ask him to change a vote. I asked him who.
It seems
would-
apparent. that
No, I
that's
did
what
not-
You were trying to elicit
No, I
from
was
him,
not. I was
and this is
asking
not-
him.
it-
ma'am, I
I'll
was
sit with my
asking him.
objection.
Okay, thank you for
I
your
appreciate
objection.
that. I appreciate that, what you said.
Your
I just
objection is
asked him
noted.
Who is better prepared? That's all I said, is who is better prepared if we were to run correctly?
The committee took Ace Printing at their word. They gave us assurances that they were ready to comply, but they weren't forthcoming with details about how and why. And in fairness to them, we didn't ask that follow-up question. We could go back and do that, but our timelines are so tight right now that if we don't get a vendor in place, we risk other timeline issues. I think I was fairly transparent. I was in the minority in the committee vote, voting for MK, and I will let that and the report of last year's elections committee closing out speak for the reasons and the preparedness in my consideration, but it wouldn't be right for me to tell you to overrule my own committee.
No, I wasn't asking to.
I understand. I understand. I was in the minority on this vote, and you can make of that what you will in terms of preparedness and assurance of success.
So
That
basically,
represents my opinion.
all right, so all the list that you have, which is quite large, to go back to ACE to get those questions that we've have answered to ensure that they have or are able to run this election like we want. Is that correct?
Yes. My anticipation is they're going to assure me they can without providing specifics.
Without providing
But in
references
fairness,
as well,
I would be happy to go back and ask them to do so.
and without providing references.
So you want me to ask about,
Yes,
How
I
the
think it's very important
okay,
for a company who is
if the secretary
doing
could
business.
maybe make sure that I have a list of your questions that you want answered, that way I don't miss one, since I don't have pen and paper here. But yes, we can go back, but the board needs to be considerate of the timeline issues of getting the RFP and the contract negotiated and signed. So
Great. Thank you, Steve.
you're welcome.
Monica?
I just wanted to reiterate about the Dropbox too. I just think it's really something people depend on. Everybody else has covered everything, but I just really wanted to reinforce the Dropbox
Then
option.
I would strongly consider that the board consider changing the time between when the voting closes and when the results are needed, because that is ruling out a large number, are limiting a large number of responses to RFP and getting the best service. I agree it should be open till the end of voting. I see your point there. However, the shortness of the time to count made sense when MO6 was first written and we were doing paper,
Sure.
but they
Well-
make less sense now.
You know, and rather than wait till the last day, you know, maybe can go in on Tuesday, you know, or 2 days earlier. And then if there's anything on that last day, it would be a few that would just be,
It's not
Prioritize.
so much the number. If I have to ship a box to the vendor, it's going to be, I'll have to ship another box in 2 days if 2 more votes come in.
right,
So the timeframe, the risk of disenfranchising someone who cast a ballot, in my estimation, is too high. We need to have a system in place to make sure that I can do both, that I can count every vote that's cast, but still have a reasonable amount of time to process.
thank you, Steve.
You're welcome.
Anybody else with any discussion?
Stuart, I just have one question.
Yeah, go ahead, Bruce.
If I may.
You're out of order.
Steve, when does the committee believe that it, or feel that it needs to have the vendor in place? What is the time demand in that sense?
Well, at candidate application close, I believe it's May 10th. So at that point, we would immediately hold a meeting with the candidates to select forum speaking positions and start collecting the ballot bios that go into those packets.
So ideally next week.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Bruce. Is there any other discussion? Yes, Cheryl. In the front.
Why not?
I'd like to point out one other thing, and that is, John mentioned 28% voted online in the last election. And yes, that's probably the wave of the future, but there are still old people like me who like a paper ballot. And so it's very important that that does remain an option for people. Thank you.
Thank you, Cheryl. Any other discussion?
And to respond to that, if I might, to be clear, I've not heard any discussion on the committee of doing away with paper ballots.
No, each of these RFPs
we've only
included
been-
paper
we've only
ballots.
Been hybrid.
It was
I
hybrid.
would not advocate for
Right.
doing away with paper.
And seeing no more discussion, I'm going to reinstitute Robert's Rules of Order.
Am I done?
And thank you very much, Stephen, for your presentation. And thank you, the Election Committee, for your hard work in going through these RFPs to bring us this suggestion. Okay, moving forward, John Latham has a motion to select the election vendor for the 2025 election. John?
Yeah, bear with me. This is a little bit long. So the motion before us, having received and considered information and recommendation from the Elections Committee as presented during this meeting, the motion is to select Ace Printing and Mailing as a selection vendor for 2025 election, to authorize the Election Committee working with legal counsel to negotiate final terms of a written contract with Ace Printing and Mailing, and to authorize the OPA General Manager and OPA Vice President Rick Farr to execute the election vendor contract once finalized. As Ocean Pines Association President Stuart Lackernick is up for re-election, therefore will not be executing the election vendor contract. Purpose and effect. Per resolution CO8, the elections committee administers the voting process for the election of members to the board of directors under section 5.03 of the OPA bylaws. The election committee supervises the printing of ballots, the mailing of election materials to the members to vote, and the procedure for safeguarding and tabulating returned ballots. Under Board Resolution MO6, the association may employ an independent contractor to serve as election vendor, with the contract to be approved as to the scope and services provided by the election committee and executed by the OPA general manager or appropriate OPA officer, and the vendor to be supervised by the elections committee. Under sections 8.07 and 9.05 of the bylaws, this hiring of the election vendor must be approved by the board, and the contract with the vendor must be executed by the OPA president or VP and attested by the OPA secretary. The background. Based on the foregoing, the election committee was previously tasked with developing and publishing an RFP for the selection of an election vendor for 2025 election cycle. The RFP was published on March 5th, and it was forwarded to 5 national election service providers and 1 local printing company, providing them the opportunity to officially bid on the OPA Board of Directors 2025 hybrid election. The deadline for the submission was March 21st, 2025. Submissions were received by the Elections Committee. And the next step is to select the vendor and negotiate, then execute a contract with the selected vendor.
Thank you,
There
John.
you have it.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Elaine?
Can we make a secondary motion or no? I don't know Robert's rules.
Bruce?
Yes,
No.
This motion is what's on the table.
we have to deal with this. Gotcha. Okay.
If I may.
Yes,
I
Steve.
believe at the prior to the vote on the motion, you could have another motion made to delay, which would then have to be seconded, and then there would be discussion on that as well. Correct.
So either this motion
I understand that.
passes
but
or
what
fails, and then we can make another motion afterwards.
Well, if I can presuppose. But a motion to table would always be in order, even if made now,
Well.
because it's a privileged motion.
think that motion is seconded discussion. Go with this motion or another.
Okay, but at the conclusion of discussion, prior to the vote on this motion, a motion to table would be in order because it's a privileged motion, correct?
Will we do that before the vote? Okay. Seeing no further discussion. Do we have any more discussion? Okay,
Yeah,
I
I
have to
guess,
call in question then.
well, I guess I would ask John if he would be agreeable to tabling the motion. And
I made the
then,
motion.
I'm sorry?
I made the motion.
Anyone could make a motion to table, correct? That would be my understanding.
You gotta deal with motion if he made this, that's seconded.
Okay.
Either he withdraws it or the vote is called on the motion.
So the question I have for John, are you willing to table this motion to go back in discussion to get the answers that were posed to Ace Printing and then come back in a session next week to vote on this?
No.
Okay. Seeing no further discussion, I call in question, all in favor of approving Ace Printing of Berlin as the election vendor for the 2025 election, please signify by saying aye. That's 3, correct? Opposed? 3, and 1 abstention. Motion does not carry. So we're going to have to discuss this and make a session for next week to discuss this and come up with an action plan of a vendor for our election.
Can I add one thing? I don't know if I'm out of line here.
I'm going to allow you to make a comment.
Thank
Go
you.
ahead.
As we move forward to do that, can we ask the election committee to please get answers for this? Because I think this is what is the struggle for all of us right now. We need to get answers that we don't have right now, and it's very uncomfortable to make a decision today based on that myself.
Thank you, Elaine. So John, we're going to direct you to go back to the election committee and get these answers so that we can have a closed session and vote on this in the open session next week. Okay, thank you. All right, we're going to move on. Motion to establish interest rate for delinquent assessment fees. Monica?
A 6% interest rate for delinquent assessment fees for the fiscal year 2025-2026 budget. Purpose and effect: the establishment of an interest rate for delinquent assessment fees is required per section 12(3) of the Declaration of Restrictions. Background: the action is required on an annual basis per our governing documents.
Do I have a motion? Do I have a second on the motion? Second. Any discussion?
Just a
Steve?
quick question. This is not a new or altered resolution that goes into our book of resolutions. This is really just a motion to address this issue that the board could revisit annually or as it sees fit. Okay. In light of that, is there a unnumbered resolution that should be deleted from the book of resolutions? Council?
I'm sorry, an unnumbered, there is an unnumbered resolution in the book of
There is
resolutions.
as we all know, an unnumbered, improperly drafted resolution that is in the book of resolutions from back in 2017 or so. And my question is this in lieu of that?
No, I don't think that there's a relationship between the two things, is there? Right, that's you're talking about the convenience fee motion, that's the
I believe so,
unnumbered
yeah.
motion?
Yeah.
I mean,
This is
resolution,
different.
It's different for the
this
assessment.
is unrelated. Yeah.
That's all I want to know. Thank you.
Okay, any further discussion? I call in question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstentions? Motion carries. First reading of revisions to F01 investment guidelines. Monica?
Yes, this is the first reading of Resolution F01. F01 was incorrectly formatted with the proper section numbering. The section of F01 were not formulated correctly with the proper numbering, and this reading is to straighten that out with a motion eventually after second reading.
First reading has been performed. We're moving over to first reading of revisions to Resolution F02 Annual Budget Development and Monitoring. Monica?
Yes, Resolution F02 is to begin consideration as revised to provide the policy and procedures for development of the association budget and monitoring of the financial results. The background is the finance department and the general manager endorsed the removal, requiring a meeting be held each September to discuss the overall budget guidelines and goals. In addition, several grammatical changes were made.
First reading has occurred. Going to the first reading of the revisions to Resolution F02 Annual Budget Development and Monitoring. Monica?
F03 provides the establishment.
F03, I'm sorry.
F03 provides the establishment of the various reserve accounts necessary to ensure that the association provides funding to maintain, replace as necessary capital assets and to provide for future capital assets that have been approved in the association's multi-year plans. The background, the finance team, along with the general manager, confirmed the replacement expenditures, excluding bulkheads, are purchases of replacement capital items, including buildings, article of furniture, vehicles, and equipment having useful life over 2 years. And the number of items result in a substantial total investment of at least $2,000. Additionally, the addition of the word account was added to clarify F03 refers to reserve accounts. In Section 5, an additional line was added to ensure the association is compliant with the Homeowners Act, Section 11B to 112.3.
Thank you, Monica. That first reading has occurred. We're going to move forward. Can Kevin Middleton come to the podium? He has a recommendation on leaf violations. It's going to need a microphone. Thanks, Monica.
Thank you.
First of all, Kevin, I want to thank you for coming forward to make this presentation. I appreciate it.
Not a problem. So good morning, board admin and members. My name's Kevin Middleton, and I formerly was on the ARC committee that was responsible for the last revisions. So I felt appropriate because my fingerprints are on this leaf concern matter, and I feel that accountability is important. During my tenure, we, as a group, the entire committee looked at trying to parallel the information that was contained in the Declaration of Restrictions. That was our primary goal. The secondary goal was in the first section of the ARC guidelines, which is to provide for health, safety, and goodwill for the community. I'm not going to read every one of these slides, but all this information's up there. Do I understand this will be published? So in the spirit of brevity, since it's a beautiful Saturday morning, we've already kind of beat a lot of things to death here. I'm going to move quickly forward. And I imagine anybody that has any questions can go ahead and look at this information. So it seems as the flavor of the month, last month's meeting, was the concerns regarding the leaf violations. So one of the things I intend to do here is hit on some of those specific violations briefly. And in the end, I will tell you why those violations are so prominent in this period of time. Okay, so the violations I believe in question, I have not seen one, so I don't know. But I know there was a conversation about ARC guideline 402D. And it, in its last line, stated that ground cover, leaves could not be considered ground cover. And I'm going to show you where that information is actually provided from the state. Okay, the second is Declaration Restriction 8L, which was written in the 60s, wasn't extremely clear, and it was updated with a little bit more contemporary language in MO4. Okay, and I think, does the violation go out as MO4?
Linda? Does the violation for leaves go out as MO4?
Okay, okay. So I also hope to, in this brief presentation, validate why CPI is doing what they're doing. And again, it hinges on public safety. And you will see, because some of the information that's going to be referenced here has a lot to do with fire prevention. Okay, so if we can see the next slide. This is just a little bit about what I observed. I'm not a social media participant. You'll never find a post from me. or if you do, it's going to be extremely rare, but I read everything. And I like to stay versed and I want to stay knowledgeable. And I find enough patience to read some of the information that I read. If I ever choose to respond, my theory is type it, don't send it, sleep on it, and delete it the next morning. So unfortunately, though, in some of that information I've read, some pretty derogatory stuff. I mean, to the extent where one particular allegation was that the board and admin had surreptitiously colluded to attempt to change the DRs, and I can assure you that was not the case. Most of the folks, with exception of Rick, weren't even on this board at the time when a lot of this stuff was researched and prepared. Admin obviously was there, but they did not serve a role. This was done by the committee through extensive research. And it was, again, to appeal to the community's betterment and to align with the DRs. Can we go to the next slide? I'm going to try and buzz through some of this. This was a press release that came out in July last year, and highlighted this part where it says these guidelines are based on the original declaration restrictions as well as the current federal, state, and Worcester County requirements, and provide concise and comprehensive instructions for property owners planning any exterior changes, renovations, or improvements. So that information was out, press release last July. It's pretty much what I told you. That was the mission of the ARC committee when we did the revisions. Can I see the next slide, please? Incidentally, before you go any further, on the bottom, if you do look at these slides, bottom right-hand side is the URL. So if anybody wants to go back and validate what I said or where it came from, you're more than welcome. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so I referenced in the ARC guidelines, first page, section 100, general provisions. The second paragraph talks about public health and safety and welfare. Again, that was the guide for the revisions. It was the premise for which CPIs made these violations. And I think that you go no further than understand that this is in your best interest. I mean, I'm a homeowner here as well. And I'm going to tell you, for those of you who hadn't got your insurance statement for this year, you're going to find that there was probably an increase. Now, I have other properties, and this one increased more than any other property. And when I called the insurance company and asked why, and an underwriter said it had to do with replacement costs for the structure. I said, okay, well, we don't have hurricanes. We don't have any history of any of this. You know, they said fire. Okay, fair enough. So this is contemporary. This is current. This is something I just made that call about because I just received my bill in March. Okay, so it validates what's going on here. Another thing is you can pick up some of the headlines here. We've got fires within 100 miles in New Jersey. We got wildfires in Pennsylvania right now. Maryland is under an extreme drought situation and has been for over a year. Okay, can we move on to the next slide, please? All right, so this was something I think I referenced, the ARC guideline. The only place that leaves are mentioned is in this section 400 landscape plan. And this section 400 is about planning an improvement, whether it be a new home or renovation, whatever, this applies. The last line highlighted there says leaves are not considered to be acceptable ground cover. Again, this information wasn't because a group around a table just decided this. It was because we extract that information from State of Maryland website. Next slide, please. So this is the website that it came from, Maryland Department of Natural Resources, Wildlife and Heritage Services. Again, the URL is in the bottom right-hand corner. And the highlighted portion says ground cover are exactly what their names imply, plants that spread and form a carpet over the ground. I'll let you read the rest. No place does it ever say, state, or imply that leaves are ground cover. It implies that it is green growth. All right, next slide. Now this is where MO4 came into play and kind of a playoff on DR8L, which talks about maintenance. In 8L, it talks about debris and refuge. It does not state fallen leaves as debris. In fact, it's rather ambiguous. It's been like that since it was written in the 60s. So we felt that there needed to be some clarity so that we would all know what that meant. So in researching through Worcester County, state of Maryland, and federal, we found that fallen leaves were considered to be debris. So this is, again, this is Maryland Department of Natural Resource Forest Service website. URL's bottom right-hand side, but it clarifies what the term, and I believe I saw in some of the social media posts, well, so when are leaves debris? Well, I would contact the Maryland Department of Natural Resources and Services and ask that question. Because as far as we were concerned, ARC found a credible source that defined it for us, so that's how we ended up placing it. All right, next slide, please. Okay, the fact that I refer to as flavor of the month, that probably was inappropriate, but the fact that these violations were occurring in the spring of this year is based on the fact that CPI has a strategy that fits what, again, is in the state information. It goes on to say, in Maryland, the busiest wildfire seasons typically occur in the spring and in the fall of the year. So you're probably going to see these violations again in the fall. But they're following the guideline of the state. So when all the harassment and all the complaints, just understand they're looking out for your best interest. And they're looking out statistically in this specific high season. There's a lot of information in these websites. I encourage anybody to go ahead and read it, and it'll explain why. I am going to show you some statistics. But the summary of it is basically this. It's unusually hot and dry conditions or drought that can turn mild fire season into a serious problem. Okay, next slide. All right, these are too small, probably for you to read, I don't know. But this is actually a brochure that's put out by the state of Maryland. I would encourage Ocean Pines to actually get this or print these. And there's a second page to it. The areas that are highlighted use the specific language about ground cover. That's the center right-hand portion. Got a red border around it. It also talks about leaf debris and it talks about maintenance. But my point and suggestion to Ocean Pines would, when a violation is sent out for leaves, that you would attach this. That way there'll be clarity. Second slide, please. This is actually recommendations with what they call zones, and the zones are on the map. And it talks about how you should maintain your property so that it does not become a fire risk in such a way that you are staging what types of fuels are closest to your house and further from your house. Again, too small for me to read. I don't know if you guys can see it or not, but I'd encourage you to look at it. Again, the URL is on the bottom right-hand side. Next slide, please. This is some additional information, a little bit tough to read, but every one of these has an association to the region in which we live. Tall grasses, hardwood, leaf and twigs and fallen sticks, that type of debris, marsh area. So again, take a look at it. Next slide, please. There's also several reports listed on the Maryland Forest Service Wildlife Fire Program website. And they probably got about 20 years worth of reports listed. I'm sure you can get additional information if you want to. The only thing I've shown here is the cover of what that report looks like. And this specific page, I don't remember what page number it is, but it's early in the report. The bottom right-hand side, what I have highlighted is statistically, and this is consistent for several years. Offhand, I don't recall now how many, but properties of the size of Ocean Pines lots, it's listed up there as 0.26 and less, are the second highest for wildfires, believe it or not. The close proximity of the properties, the natural fuel, the dry conditions, the ocean winds, all that kind of thing must lead to it. But there's a lot of information about the regions of the state of Maryland, and the Eastern Shore happens to be one of the higher. And I think I have that in one of these slides as well. So again, that information's there. You'll find on the website, left-hand side column, there are extensive amount of reports. You just pull up the appropriate year that you're interested in. Next slide. Can you blow any of that up? No? Okay, so the left-hand column, the graph at the top, there are two small columns. Yeah, well, okay, sorry. So you'll notice on the top left-hand bar graph, the two larger columns are the statistics for the seasons. Those are the spring season. If you look to the right-hand side of that top left-hand graph, you'll see that the bar graph is also high, and that's for the fall season. So these are the statistics that were used in gathering this information. The pie graphs on the right-hand side are more geared towards the eastern or the eastern part of the state. I'm not going to go into all of it. I think it's, if somebody's that interested, again, the URL is down there. I'm assuming this is going to be posted and you can look it up. Okay, next slide, please. All right, so in summary, this presentation was just to address these concerns. I feel that CPI's primary mission to secure public health, safety, and welfare is being met by what's going on. It's disputable. We all may not agree on that. But I personally would like to, from a homeowner's perspective, compliment you on doing what you're doing. I know it's tough to do, and I know that the criticisms, are painful. And I know that for homeowners, as myself, who paid somebody to come and clean the leaves out of my yard, paid somebody to clean the leaves out of my ditch, it's a cost to having the property. You can't not maintain your property. You can't have expectations that your leaves are going to fall, maybe rot away or blow into your neighbor's yard, or maybe they'll never catch on fire. But the bottom line is, from the ARC perspective, we had a mission, and I feel that we accomplished it, and we brought credibility to our decisions, and I applaud the association for doing what they're doing. I think that is it.
Kevin, thank you very much. I can't thank you enough, because this is not just about our drainage issues that we have here. This is about fire hazard and keeping your home so that it doesn't burn down and we have to send the chief out for you.
Yeah,
So-
the idea that it was all centered on, because I was not present for last month, but I did look at the video. It is about aesthetics. Yes, it is about drainage. Yes, but it's also about protecting one of your largest investments, which is your home, and the human resource, which is your family. So if you look at it in that light, I don't see the complaint.
Thanks again, Kevin.
Yes, sir.
We're going to move forward. We're going to move forward. Appointments, we have no appointments. So we're at the place where we adjourn our meeting. Do I have a motion to adjourn? No motion? Oh, there is a motion.